Yemi Bakayoko, oh yo, Samina Mina, Edward Mende, Samina Mina Sam Sadakte. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
All right, welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or, as we are right now, you can catch us live on Twitch, Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Central. So on tonight's pod, got a full house again. We're on a roll here. Got myself, Andy. You can find me on Twitter at Comiskey North. We've got somebody who kicks field goals like Harry Kane, Matt at Matus Lee. And we've got somebody who dances like Emmy Martinez, just saved a penalty, Parker, DJ at DJ Parkour. Parker, how you doing?
Nice. Good weekend. Home, got to relax and recharge the batteries, which means start drinking at 2 yesterday and drink all day into the night. So we tied one on, and it was a really great time. And we played cribbage, and we drank and played music very loud and had a ball. So I was very hungover today, and I think I took a couple naps today, and I didn't really move from the couch. So but what do we always say, boys? When you get knocked off that horse, got to crack a beer and get back on. So
yes,
happy
sir.
to be here. It's a fun day watching World Cup games, and France, you're my only hope. That's my white knight that I've still got in our pool. So France has to pull it off now. Matthew, how about yourself, man? How are you?
Yeah, doing good. A little bit of a tired day. Just taking care of the wife. She's not feeling too hot at the moment, so just kind of tending to her kind of throughout the day. But got some work done on the basement. I'm going to keep talking about that until stuff is done. But yeah, there's still a lot going on. But all in all, we're here. Can't ask for a better Sunday night. Collins, how's it going?
Good. Got done celebrating combined birthday week with myself and my son, and my mom also is in the same week. So it's been just kind of going out to dinner every single night this week and all that. But yeah, a lot of beverages to be had, which was nice. Especially watching England lose to France. I got to drink the Fly the L bourbon from Central Standard. England needed to fly that L. Well, I'm so glad they're done. But overall, good weekend. All right. Well, we are on episode number 18. And so let's cheers to a player who wore that number. Got 3 choices here, and we're going to cheers with our Mobcraft beer from our advent calendars here. We've got Yuri Zhirkov, Wayne Bridge. Sorry, I almost couldn't say that with a straight face. And Olivier Giroud. Parker, I think I know where you're going. I think I know who you're going to pick here, so I'll let you start.
Yeah, the man with the meaty French forehead.
The meaty French forehead strikes again!
Who scores the winner and was your man of the match against England in that World Cup quarterfinal match. So I'm a huge fan of Ollie. I think he was one of our unsung heroes, and I think his presence was very much felt when he left, and we didn't have someone who could finish to the quality of his. And Matt, I'll never forget this, but you said this years ago, just saying if you take a highlight clip of all of Giroud's best goals, you have a YouTube compilation, and you show it to people in the future that didn't watch this era of football, they're going to think he was one of the best on that Ronaldo Messi level of players, because he's got just some absolute worldies in his catalog, some of which were scored for Chelsea, others for Arsenal and for his national team. So I'm cheersing to Ali today.
So I have two things that I want to call out as omissions. The first one, which Parker, I'm a little bit upset that you didn't call this out. Loic Remy, for obvious reasons. The second of that, Ross Barkley,
the Nigerian
Collins. How did you not bring that one into the equation?
Because I already know who I'm voting for on this one, and he wasn't going to make the cut for me. So
I'm just saying, I feel like you both had a foot in both of those camps. So, but for me, I would have to go with Olivier Giroud as well. He is a professional at the utmost level. Doesn't matter where he plays, what he does, he is a professional. A lot of people will talk about, he didn't have a goal or a shot on goal in the last World Cup as the striker for France. Didn't matter. And now he's got four? I think he's got 4 goals in the World Cup at 36, I want to say. The guy can do it all. Like, he is just, when we talk about a clinical finisher, yes, he checks that. And it seems like he's almost at a point where he does like the acrobatic and like the ridiculous stuff for fun. Like he just does it. So for me, I have to give the nod to Olivier Giroud.
I really thought we were going to go split decision on this one. I really thought, Matt, that you were going to go for Wayne Bridge just for the legend jokes. Yeah,
shithousery.
And don't get me wrong, Wayne Bridge was a solid player, from what I remember back in the day.
So was his wife.
Team player.
Nobody bigger than the club.
I'll let that one sit.
Seriously.
Letting Giroud go for £1 million, and we all know that he wanted to go and all that, but I'll never forget was it 13 goals and 13 European appearances the year we won the Europa League? It's crazy, but you all know me. I'm the Russian, the Russian history buff and all that. Yuri Zhirkov was the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Played under several different managers here in his brief stint, and really could do it all. I remember always being very impressed by Yuri Zhirkov. So I'll buck the trend and go with him, but I'll acknowledge that the Giroud should be the man that we're toasting today. So with that, we are toasting with our Mobcraft Advent calendar beer for today. We're on the 11th day of Advent, and that beer is Mobcraft MC Amber. If you listen to the pod, you know that we've done this one before. This is one of their staples at Mobcraft. It's an amber ale with a nice copper hue to it. It's got a nice malty flavor, but also very drinkable. So cheers to Olivier Giroud. A little bit of MC Amber. Can't touch this.
Cheers, boys.
All right. Well, on tonight's pod, we talk more World Cup. We're going to talk about the quarterfinals. Had some World Cup of chaos, I'll put it. We'll talk a little bit about the U.S. men's national team manager situation. Seen conflicting reports this week, as well as the Athletic diving into some potential candidates. And then we'll touch a little bit on the passing of U.S. soccer journalist Grant Wahl. So let's start with those quarterfinal matches, because this may have been one of the, I know I said about the group stages, but it may have been one of the best quarterfinal stages that I can remember at a World Cup. So you had let's see, Netherlands, Argentina, the cracker of a match. Croatia, Brazil. Excuse me. Yeah. England against France and Morocco against Portugal. Do you guys have a favorite out of those matches? Like, what do you even make of the 2 days of football that we saw there?
Collins, you said it best. I want all the chaos.
People of Earth, your meaningless lives are about to end. I am Professor Chaos.
And we are getting that in an amount that we did not think was possible. There has been so much of that. I'm me personally, I'm very high on Croatia. I was happy to see them go through in what I thought was an absolute banger of a match. It's storybook written, right? Neymar gets the goal in extra time, and then all of a sudden, you have Croatia getting the goal at the dying minutes of the second period of overtime or extra time. And then it goes down to pens. I'm sorry, Croatia is lethal when it comes to pens. Like, they are cold-blooded. And their goalkeeper, Lavakovic, he's going to get paid like 60 mil to go somewhere next season. Like, the performances that he's put on, not only in this last match, but in the other match, I believe against Japan, where he saved 3. Yeah, 1 was off the post, but 2 he full-blown saved. His stock value has gone through the roof. And I would not be surprised to see a big team pay a very large amount of money for him. I just like the way that Croatia operates. And then we talk about the Netherlands Argentina match. The epitome of chaos. Collins, I'm sure you were probably full of chub watching that game. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, that match was absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. Like, it brings me back to, what was it? Tottenham, Chelsea, was that 2016, 2018?
I think it was 16, the battle at the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Where everybody was just going after everybody. I love it. Like, that's what I like to see. I don't think the match was well officiated by any means, but it's good to see the fight. Like, you even have Messi talking shit the entire time. How often do you really see that? You don't, right? Like, he's usually cool, calm, collected. No, he was all about it. Like, he would have probably thrown hands if he needed to. I loved it. Morocco. Can we have a defense like that at Chelsea? That, like, can we just sign their entire back line? They play with such passion and such desire. It reminds me of Juve way back in the day with the BBC, right? That was their back line. Bonucci, Chiellini, and who's the other one? Brzgali or something like that, or I can't remember the other guy, but like, that was their back line. They celebrated every stop like it was a goal. And Morocco does that, and they can go forward. They definitely have the counter. Khedira fucking sucks. Granted, it's Morocco, but at the same time, I don't know how he made the team. But like, it's so good to see Morocco move forward. You always root for that underdog, and I feel like we have a lot of underdogs if you look at the matchups going into the semis. England, France, honestly, that was going to be a crapshoot. You know, but at the end of the day, England's going to do England things, right? They're going to choke when it matters, and they did, especially Harry Kane. I sent you boys a nice little TikTok that I'm sure pretty much summed up England and kind of that whole thing. You know, France, I don't know if they were the better team, but they were the more clinical team from that regard. But, you know, great matches, all four, all the way around. So as a neutral, since we technically don't have a horse in this race anymore, you have to love it, right? You want all that chaos, you want the drama, you want everything that comes with it. And I think we're getting that left, right, and center.
Yeah. Well said, Matt, and well summarized. You can't pick a winner out of those four matches, but if you know, gun to my head, which one had the most of the chaos and the most craziness, I have to say it was that Netherlands match. Just because in the 80th minute of a World Cup, and you're down 2-0, you know, it feels like you're counted out. And I know that crazier things have happened in the sport, where, you know, you think about like the Manchester City scoring 2 goals in extra time to win the league. You know, matches like that happen, right? And moments like that happen in the sport, but you still didn't feel like that, you know, the Netherlands were going to have a fighter's chance in that. So see a goal in the 83rd minute, you kind of go, okay, there's some hope, right? There's a moment. And then to be standing over a free kick in a dangerous area, and then to pull that stunt and do a creative from the training ground and have it work to a T, man, just the balls to do that in that big of a moment. I think, what was it, like the 90th plus 11th or something? Like,
yep.
It was that moment, right, where it's a little bit of a Hail Mary, but it's just it was a really well executed, you know, play. And I love those moments. And that's where, you know, I wish Netherlands held on to win that match, obviously, just because it would have made for a hell of a story to kind of come back from a situation like that and then to pull it off and win. You know, I dislike Argentina and sort of the sportsmanship that they showed during that match. I've seen a lot of clips of Croatia when they beat Brazil and just kind of going up to players and hugging them, consoling them, and just kind of, you know, good sportsmanship type stuff, and not rubbing it in their face. And the picture of the Argentines making faces and kind of, you know, mocking Netherlands players as they were losing, or after they lost, doesn't sit well with me. So now I will be adamantly cheering against Argentina to lose now. But it was a hell of a match. It was an absolute classic in the World Cup. And, you know, I cheer for those things because this is the one time every 4 years where more than soccer fans turn into the sport. And a lot of the people I work with don't watch a lot of it, and they're like, well, this is boring. And I'm like, it's not, though. You have to, you know, look at it a little bit differently, right? You have to kind of get into it and understand what's going on for it to not be boring. And so to be in a lunchroom watching the end of that game and having my boss go, holy shit, what just happened? Like, that's cool for the sport. And I like those moments as a neutral to celebrate, you know, what can happen in just that oh shit moment. And can they do this? Can they pull it off now? So that was my favorite moment so far of the World Cup.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that last take. You know, during these matches in the quarterfinals, it was every single match seemingly. Towards the end of the match, I would get a text from my dad, who doesn't really watch soccer, like, oh my God, Netherlands, oh my God, Croatia. Or I get a text from a former neighbor of mine who doesn't really watch soccer anymore, but, you know, played high school and collegiate, and he'll be like, what is happening, right? Like, just to get get people involved in a sport where normally we're kind of, I don't want to say loners, but yeah, it's a very small select group of people who watch sport regularly, and to be able to share that with others is pretty special. And Parker, I agree with you on the the Netherlands match, the lack of sportsmanship was, I mean, it drives me. I don't like Argentina to begin with, but it's driving me to actively root against them now. Emi Martinez, shouting at players after the match, I've stopped you twice, bitches, like, that kind of thing, and dancing after saving a penalty. Lionel Messi going over to the Dutch coaching staff and talking shit. And Paredes launching a ball into the Dutch bench. They're supposed to be the team that everybody should be cheering for. It's Messi's last World Cup. Messi's a likable guy. We saw Messi calling out Wout Weghorst. Like, why? Dude's not on your level. Like, calm down. I think they've kind of made themselves into the villains here. And honestly, we could probably spend a whole hour talking about that match alone. But I'll switch it real quick, because my favorite match, in case you heard on last week's pod, I chose Morocco to be in the final. And so them scoring, I was actually at Highbury for this match, scoring against Portugal, and the whole place going nuts was fantastic. And then after the match, to see Cristiano Ronaldo in tears, and it was just like, oh, let me eat up all those tears, like Cartman on South Park.
Oh my God! Yes! Yes! Oh, let me taste your tears, Scott. Your tears are so yummy and sweet.
Oh, it was great until he becomes a Chelsea player. But just yeah, double middle fingers to me. Thank you. But seeing the passion that Morocco has, not only being the first African nation to reach the semifinals, being the first Muslim nation to reach the semifinals. Previous to this, I believe they'd only been in the round of 16 once or twice. I forgot what the official stat was. They had just hired a new manager a month before the tournament. Hakim Ziyech had been banished for months and months and months. And just to see how this team gels and works together, it's fun to watch. They don't concede a lot of goals. They don't score a lot of goals, but they are a fun team to watch in how they just pragmatically play, and then also show the passion and the national spirit that you see in the World Cup. I really enjoyed them beating Portugal.
I saw a stat about Ziyech and the amount of times he's tracked back and defended and won balls back in their own third. And I thought of you, Collins, because obviously it's your guy, it's your boy, but that is a Tuchelism that got drilled into him, because when he first played for Chelsea, he didn't do shit like that. And you saw him adapt into that style, that defensive team style under Tuchel. And I smiled, because I was like, man, that's a Tuchelism that's coming out in the World Cup, and Ziyech's doing it for Morocco, and then gets to propel this story forward, which I thought was really awesome.
Another real quick note on Morocco. One thing I thought was real cool about Ziyech. Ziyech hasn't taken any money from playing for the national team in any of his caps for Morocco. He donates it all to orphans and young children in Morocco, which again is one of those things. It's just a stark contrast to what you saw in the Netherlands Argentina match. And I'm not saying that none of those guys do that. But it's just a very stark contrast in how teams are operating and how teams are allowing themselves to be perceived.
Yeah. Morocco hasn't allowed in a goal from opposing opposition the entire World Cup. Their only goal that they've allowed was an own goal. You want to talk about a defense? You want to talk about defense wins championships? Yeah, that's that team. Now, the injury to Romain Saiz, I think that's going to be a big factor for them going forward. He plays currently at Wolverhampton, if I'm not mistaken. And he is one of their main staples. But it's been really fun to watch Morocco in the last couple of matches, because it's the epitome of next man up mentality. Okay, somebody's hurt, you go do your job. I remember, I don't think it was the Who did Morocco play in the quarters?
They played,
Spain.
Yeah. Spain in the round of 16.
And it was El Yamik that came on, and he was like, Morocco player of the year or whatever at like age 18, and he was going to be the next big thing, blah, blah, blah. And he was on the bench, but he came on and he had 2 amazing defensive stops. And that's just coming out of the pitch. Like, that's crazy. They just have that mentality where it's a team mentality. And I find it very difficult for anybody to break them down. I don't think that defensively anybody's better than them. I don't think from an attack perspective that any team is really going to be able to break them down if they fold back and go to the park the bus strategy. I don't see a way for teams to break them down. They are so sound in that defense that it's going to be very difficult.
I did enjoy watching the post-match pressers. After I came back from Highbury, I came home and flipped those on. Yassine Bono, the keeper from Morocco, answered every question in Arabic. Even though he knows Spanish, French, and English, the reporters kept asking him questions in English and French. And he said, "It's not my problem that you don't know Arabic. It's not my problem that you didn't bring a translator with you. Like, this is the World Cup. What are you thinking?" And there were immediately calls all over Twitter for Chelsea to go out and sign him just for that. Like, all right, man. I respect that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, looking forward, we do have semifinal matches this week. So we do have the previously mentioned Morocco against the reigning world champions, France. And on the other side of the bracket, we have new supervillains Argentina facing off against Croatia. Let's real quick do gun to your head outside of our predictions from last week's pod. If you want to check those out, go listen to last week's pod. But kind of reset here. Let's start with Argentina, Croatia. Matt, who you got?
Croatia. And for one simple reason, and I'm sorry if we get canceled, you don't fuck with Eastern European teams. You just don't. Like, don't give them a reason to, like, don't piss them off. Like, this team, no, don't do it. And I think Argentina's going to flop a shit ton like they always do. And Croatia is just going to body them physically. And from what I've seen out of the officials so far, they're not really calling ticky-tack fouls. Like, you have to be legitimately fouled in order to draw something. So I give the edge to Croatia in that regard. They're just more physical than Argentina is going to be.
Just real quick before we get to you, Parker, mentioning the refereeing, I just want to give a quick shout out to one of our followers, Garlic Bread on Twitter. He had posted something about Argentina complaining about the officiating in that Netherlands match, and went on to say, how can you be complaining about that when all of the calls went your way? Which I personally agree with. I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with that, but I wanted to give him a quick shout out for that. So thank you for bringing that up, Matt. Parker, who you got?
I want Croatia to win for reasons are previously discussed. I think Argentina is going to pull it off. It just kind of feels like it's their time to get to the final game. And so feels like it's written in the stars for Messi to make it. And haven't looked amazing, but they've looked good enough. Yeah, right. They've looked good enough. And, I think Croatia is a physical team. I just don't know how much gas they're going to have in the tank playing like a quicker pace, a quicker turnaround now for this upcoming one. So I'm hopeful that Argentina goes down, but my gut tells me that they're making it through.
As does mine. I think Argentina are through. I think Croatia, just like Belgium, are an aging squad. and their legs might not be all the way behind them the way Argentina is. That, and I think it's going to be so much sweeter to see Messi lose in the final of his final World Cup. Just again, tears. Feed me those tears. So I got Argentina through to the final. Let's turn to the other side of the bracket. We got France against Morocco. Matt, who are you taking?
I want Morocco so bad. I have to take France. Like, we talk about a lot of stuff on paper. Like, I was able to watch the Portugal match, and they can, like, France can burn them down the sides. Like, I think that's going to be very evident, especially if you have Mbappe playing out wide and then Giroud in the middle. I can see it going for France, and it's only going to take one goal. I don't know that Morocco has the firepower on the offensive side to combat that. They do have the defense to hold resolute for a long time, but once that goal goes in, can they go on the attack? And I don't trust their attack that much. So I think I'll call it right now. 1-0. Olivier Giroud scores the goal.
Yeah, I think France takes it for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. One of my favorite parts of the match against England was when, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but Chouameni, the guy who scored the goal for France, it was a cracker of a goal, and I think it was Stu Holden who was like, "Oh yeah, that guy, that $100 million Real Madrid player that France also has." That's one of those like embarrassment of riches kind of teams. And if you stop Mbappe, which England did a decent job of, you still have Olivier Giroud, you still have Chouameni, you still got Griezmann, you've got these guys all over the place that you can hit them from a lot of different ways. So I don't think France care how they win. They can beat you in a lot of different facets. So I think they're gonna have too much firepower.
I'm sticking with my guns. Morocco in the final.
Do it.
And here's why. There's only been 2 back-to-back World Cup winners ever. Italy in 1934 and 38, and Brazil in 58 and 62. France coming off the World Cup win in Russia in 2018. The odds are stacked against them. As good as they look, I will admit they are a very talented squad. I personally love the French national team. That they've always been my number one. But Morocco's defense, what I've seen out of it is just something else. I don't even know how to describe it other than they're just pragmatic in what they do. Hakimi on one side. And I think Azraoui is coming back for the next match. I don't know if I saw that confirmed or not.
Talk about Amrabat. He is all over the place.
Also true.
Good Lord.
So we saw against Portugal that all you need is one moment. When you have a defense like that, all you need is one moment. And you have a magician with a crazy left foot in Hakim Ziyech who will put in the world's most dangerous ball every single time. I
Except on corners.
Sorry. It's a Chelsea thing.
Sorry, for Chelsea.
Yeah. But I think Morocco can pull this off 1-0. If it goes above 1-0, then I don't foresee them going through. But I can see them going through 1-0 and into the final to hopefully beat Argentina.
How dare you? Argentina's not making it that far.
Fingers crossed.
I'm sticking with my guns too.
All right. Well, let's turn back domestically here. There's been rumblings this week that not only are the U.S. Soccer Federation exploring an extension with Gregg Berhalter, but that they're also exploring his replacement. So, not sure where to go there. I think, me personally, I've been on the record on this pod, Berhalter out for various reasons. I'm all for them searching externally. Do I trust the process? No. But I could see this going either way. Do you guys have a preference? The U.S. soccer fan base seems to be divided between Berhalter staying and building around what they've accomplished in this World Cup, or switching to a more experienced manager and rolling with that. So which would you guys prefer?
I don't care either way, as long as they make a decision soon and they stick with it. I don't want a situation where we try this Berhalter experiment out for 2.5 years and then we get rid of them, and then it's a situation where we have to find someone kind of scramble before the big World Cup on home turf. So if you buy into it and kind of get behind it and figure out what you need to do. And if you don't, then search externally, find someone with some experience and get them in. But
yeah, I think
I'll save my next point for when Collins comes back. So go ahead.
Yeah. I would say the big thing for me is, you look at some of the names that have been thrown out there, and I'll save this for when Collins is back, because he and I talked about this in our group chat. But like, you look at some of the big names, it's hard to argue against what Berhalter did in the World Cup, right? It's hard to argue against that. And if you bring in, just like, technically we are a Chelsea podcast, so like, when you bring in a new manager, it takes time, especially with a national team. It takes time, and you can't necessarily ask somebody who is doing a full-time job to also do an international job. I think that's where a lot of things kind of get lost. But looking at some of the people that have been talked to, like, yeah, would I love to have them? Absolutely. Like, you look at that list, yeah, by all means, please, because they are top tier. They are top tier managers. Now, when it comes to, do you replace a Gregg Berhalter with a Roberto Martinez? And Collins, this is definitely going to be a you and me thing. Like, do you replace a manager that got you through to the quarterfinals with a manager that did not get a team who was better on paper? Yes, they were older, but still talent-wise a lot better, and you couldn't even get them out of the group stage. Like, that's going to be a hard ask to US soccer, and people are going to ask that same question. Like, how do you replace somebody who got us farther than the manager that you're going to try and replace, who didn't get their team as far?
I think it's a matter of perception.
I completely agree. Like, I'm like I said, I love Roberto Martinez as an option, but doing it in this fashion after his bow out during this World Cup, that's going to be a very tough pill to swallow.
I think that's fair, but you look at two different things. Number one, like I said, perception. Did Berhalter carry this team to the knockout stages? I think they made it to the knockout stages in spite of him. The report that came out in The Athletic today of he benched Reyna for the entire tournament because he looked lazy in practice. I'm sorry, he's still one of your best players in the world's premier tournament.
I disagree with you on that, dude. If someone's lazy,
I'll fight you on that one.
He's coming off an injury-riddled season. He's probably trying to keep himself, healthy for the tournament. And then
sure,
you look at Brendan Aronson being benched. Like, why? You look at the leading scorer in Europe among all Americans, and Jordan Pfolk not being brought to Qatar because he doesn't mesh with Berhalter. And then you look at Berhalter's track record, which is a 500 record at Columbus, and that's it. That's his record. You look at Roberto Martinez, using that as the example, 56 wins in 80 matches for Belgium. He had a 43% win percentage at Everton, which for a long time was a bottom to mid-table club. He led Wigan to an FA Cup final. The guy, for how Belgium did in this World Cup, he has more of a track record than Gregg Berhalter does. But then you look at some of the other names on that list, and I don't think they're asking anybody to work a full-time position while also coaching the national team. I think this would be, Pep Guardiola being done at Manchester City. I think that one's a long shot, 100%. You look at Jesse Marsch, it'd probably require him to be fired by Leeds. But then you got Zidane, would be an interesting one. Roberto Martinez, and then what was the last one? Luis Enrique, I think would be very interesting. And finally, the one who I would be most excited about would be Marcelo Bielsa, former Leeds manager. Just what you hear about how he runs his trainings and what he expects out of his players absolutely fits what you would consider the American soccer like style of play. And it's just try hard and put forth 150% effort every single match. For the longest time, that was the calling card of US soccer. And we did very well with that. You think of the Bob Bradley teams, 100% that's what that was. I think Bielsa would be a great fit. But to counteract that, US soccer has said they want somebody where Spanish is not their primary language, which makes oh my gosh, that's such a stupid policy. But beyond the point,
America.
Yeah. Berhalter out. Literally, I will take literally anyone at this point, as long as they're not an MLS manager.
See, when I saw that Gio news that broke today, I thought that gave me more. It was a card for Berhalter, because he at least had a reason. Like, there was a legitimate documented reason of, dude's not giving it in training, and he's taking things lightly, and he doesn't look like he cares, and he's kind of got an attitude about it, to the point where senior players on the team called him out. Like, you should understand and know that better than anyone. Running a club, effort is, you've talked 1,000 times about effort, and that you would take the kid that gives the effort over the superstar that doesn't. 10 times out of 10, you've said this 100 times. So when I hear that, I don't believe you. Like, I don't believe you, because I think if you were in that same situation, you would do the same exact thing. So at least it gave me context as to why Gio didn't play, because that was a huge question mark in my mind. Like, what the hell happened to Gio? Because he's clearly talented. And then, of course, he comes back and scores an absolute banger of a goal 2 days ago, right? I mean, just out of nowhere, right? And so clearly has the talent, but if he's not given his all, then to me, that's, justification enough to get benched. Your other points, fair. And Jordan Pfolk is the crown, like, hindsight's 2020 moment of, he should have been out there, right? And when our biggest problem was scoring goals, the guy that scores the most goals, like, find a way to get along with him, please, so we can have, a team that looks somewhat dangerous out there. I totally agree with a lot of the other things you said, but I'm very intrigued with the prospect of getting a more experienced manager, a European manager. Our team's becoming more European. We play more guys in better leagues, non-MLS leagues, more consistently. You need a manager that knows those leagues better, that can train to those leagues, and to build a style of play that more mirrors that. So that's where the game's going. We're getting left behind, and we won't, we'll be lucky to get out of group stages going forward if we stay the same. We have to kind of adapt and evolve to even keep up with everyone else if we want to at least, like, stay level. And then if we want to take the next step, we got to do more.
And it's not like relieving Berhalter of his duties at this point would be this crazy shock move. The average lifespan of an international manager is that 4-year window. and then things change, things move on, because it's going to be a completely different set of players moving forward. The U.S. is in the unique position, though, where we had the second youngest team at the World Cup. So these guys are all going to be in their prime the next World Cup. So I think that's where this dilemma comes in, is do you want to ride with Berhalter and build off what you did, or stick to that typical 4-year window, 4-year cycle? And it's going to be interesting with no World Cup qualifying for us for over the next 4 years. We're already in.
True.
So
True.
I would love a European manager to come in, and then we play friendlies against European teams in Europe consistently.
I'm gonna go up a little bit to a higher level. Does it matter who our manager is, considering the talent that we have to go up against the best in the world? Does it even matter? Right? And that's just a blanket question. Like, do you expect I'll use France or Brazil or England as an example, whoever, like, we all know those players, they're superstars, right? How many people on the US team do we think are actually going to be superstars that we can say, yes, this is the person that's going to lead us? Right now, we have arguably 3, and very heavily arguably 3. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic. Like, those are our 3. Tim Weah, no. Sargent, no. Aronson, no. Reyna, right now, no. Like, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter who the manager is. Like, we need to keep working towards the path of developing US soccer as a whole in order for us to be within reason of getting a high profile manager. That's kind of how I look at the entire thing.
Well, Matt, let me counter you there. Because I think a manager doesn't necessarily affect your wins, but it can absolutely add to your losses. A manager who is tactically unsound, a manager who consistently picks the wrong, match day squad, makes terrible subs, does not, as Louis van Gaal said, does not adjust the game plan, I think absolutely can kill you. And having somebody seasoned, having somebody who has been there, seen it all, really, in Europe, helps. And somebody, going back to Roberto Martinez, somebody who developed that Belgian squad from a place that we're in right now, a very young, promising squad, into something that is much greater. Because yes, I agree with you. There are 3 good players on this team right now, very good players, and I agree with those 3. But I think in 4 years' time, that number is probably 7. I think Yunus Musa is there. I think Reyna's there. Aronson's there. Can't think of who else I had off. I was just making a list in my head as you were talking. I can't think of who else.
Robinson, Dest,
Jedi.
Serginho Dest, I think, is there.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Matt Turner becomes something with the way he played. So I think this is a crucial time. This is a crucial time to get this appointment right, and not somebody who's gonna, pick an MLS-based lineup for every single friendly because, it doesn't really matter. We just want to see what we have in the wings. Like, no, we need somebody who's building something around a core of guys.
So then I'll go one step higher. Does this become, which I think I already know the answer, and I think we can all agree on it. Is this an issue with US soccer as a whole? Right? Like, granted, if you bring in a Roberto Martinez, right? You bring him in, here's the crop that you have to work with. Do what you can do. You look at somebody like Pep or somebody like Zidane. You look at both of them, they have been gifted talented squads when they came in. Just in either with Pep, with Germany, with Spain, with England. If you look at Zidane, he had Madrid, who was an absolute powerhouse at the time. They've all been gifted things. I don't necessarily know that they can build a team from the ground up, right? Pep has had money everywhere that he's gone. He can buy whoever the fuck he wants. Zidane didn't really need much in order to do what he needed to do, right? Like he had all the talent already there. It's just tactics. I look at somebody like Bielsa, who brought a team up from nothing. He had what he had, but he did something with it. And I feel like he would be the type of manager that the US would need. Granted, those days when he was at Leeds, I know that he trained hard as shit. But that was a team that could go for days. And it was never a question. And in a World Cup, that's what you need. Like, we've all watched, we've all seen the schedule. You have 3 days in between matches in the group stage, maybe. And then you keep going from there. Like, it is crazy, the schedule, but at the same time, and I will use a quote from the movie Miracle, the legs feed the wolf. You have to be in a position where you can run that hard, that long for a consistent period of time. And that's what Bielsa's Leeds team did, is they were able to run the entire time. Yeah, trainings were rough. Well, when you're doing something like that, yeah, it has to be. You have to train yourself to be at that level. If that's what the US is going for, I am all for Bielsa. I'm not in a position where I would say I want Zidane or I want Pep, because we don't have the caliber player that they're used to, and we don't have the budget that they're used to for anything. I don't think we even have the influence. Even if we do have dual national players, I don't think that they even bring the influence to come to the US game.
I think I like Bielsa. He's a good choice. And in addition to what he's done at Leeds, I think a lot of people forget he also managed Argentina for 6 years, in which during that time he had a second place finish at what's the tournament down there? Copa America.
Copa America.
Which is no small feat there. So I'll agree with you. I like Bielsa. I think he's a good choice there. All right. Well, before we get into our final topic of the night, I do just want to give a quick shout out to Mobcraft Beer here in Milwaukee. I was just at the tap room the other day. My wife and I are finalizing our 10-year anniversary, throwing a party, which you guys are absolutely coming to. So we'll play some shuffleboard there. We'll play a little foosball. Have one of the, oh gosh, I think last time I counted, they had 18 different beers on tap. Just fantastic stuff. So if you're ever in Milwaukee, or if you're in Denver, Parker, you've been to the one in Denver, make sure to check out Mobcraft Brewing. Stop in, let them know if Flag Stays Down sent you, and have yourself a couple beers.
This apple lager is delicious. Holy shit.
Yeah, what was that? Was that day? I get these all mixed up now doing these videos for the thing. Day 9?
I think it was Friday's beer.
Okay.
So, or Saturday, Thursday's beer, I think, something like that. But it was it is just delicious.
Or no, Thursday, because
Friday was the fish fry.
Yep.
Fish fry rye.
Yes, sir.
The ultimate Wisconsin beer. So happy I got to drink that one while I was shoveling snow. There's nothing more Wisconsin than that.
You were shoveling. I was snow blowing.
I'm too poor. Meanwhile, Parker's got 5 feet of snow up in Minnesota.
And still shoveling.
Well, fix your
Fuck you.
snowblower.
All right. Well, switching subjects here, a little bit more somber. I do just want to real quick touch on the passing of former Sports Illustrated and an American soccer journalist, Grant Wahl, during the Argentina-Netherlands match. He had said on his podcast this week that he had some effects of bronchitis going on. He collapsed during the Argentina-Netherlands match, was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Grant Wahl, I don't always agree. I did not always agree with the things that he wrote. But when I was first getting into soccer, way back in the day, that was when we still had magazine subscriptions. I had Sports Illustrated, but his column was always a must read. He's a guy who very, very passionately cared about the development of the sport in this nation. And from everything that I've read, everything that I've seen, also very much cared about his fellow human beings. So it was real sad to see him pass, real surprising to see him pass. I don't so much want to touch on some of the theories floating around out there, because I think it's disrespectful at this point to touch on that without any further evidence. But I wanted to cheers, I guess, to Grant Wahl for living his best life, helping people in need, and from everything I read, people would see him on the street and he'd talk to you like he had known you for years. And this was every single person who's ever interacted with him, it seems like. So just a real quick cheers to Grant Wahl. It's sad to see him go. Hopefully now in a better place.
Well said, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I always used to like seeing when I would be watching like random matches, and if you need somebody to chime in on something, he would always be the guy, and all the stuff like that, and very well spoken, very articulate, and you could tell that he had a love for the game. And it's just sad to see him go. Obviously, Collins, to your point, we're not going to speculate on things that have been said. But either way you look at it, just a great person. And he was definitely an ambassador for the sport in the US, especially with the sport that's not very very covered or very kind of articulated as far as we know American sports today. But he did an absolutely wonderful job, and he's definitely going to be missed in that regard.
All right, boys. Well, that does push us up against the hour mark here. So any closing thoughts before we get into the final credits roll here?
Go
Nothing to add, man.
Croatia, Morocco final. Collins, if that happens, you and me, Highbury, all day, left, right, and center. We're going to make that happen.
Book it. I like it. All right. Well, before we cheers to that final, let's pay some bills here. So if you've enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch, please give us a follow there. We'll be here most Sunday evenings at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Or if you're busy on Sundays, or if you like to listen to the podcast version instead, because I chop and make it sound nice, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. All that we ask is that you please subscribe, rate, and review. The podcast takes no more than 30 seconds, especially on Spotify. It takes about 2 seconds, but it helps us more than you would know. You can always follow us on social media. Podcast itself can be followed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search @FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy. I'm at Comiskey North. Parker's at DJ Parkour. and Matt is at Matus Lee. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want us to address on air, shoot us a DM on social media or come join us on the chat on Twitch. So that's all I've got, boys. Let's cheers to a Morocco-Croatia final.
Cheers.
Amen.
I'm all potted out.